Hey folks, Surveying Glory here with another Anatomy of a Battle video for Steel Division Normandy 44, and this is another 1v1 battle between the 12th SS-Panzer Division and the 2nd Blindeé, commanded by MushyNed, and we're fighting on the Bois de Limors map. And with this map, I'm playing as I said, the 12th SS Panzer, so I'm still trying to get to grips with playing an armoured division, and what I want to do in this battle is to leave the forest on the right hand side pretty much to the French. I'm happy to let them advance up through the forest as long as I can restrict them, keep them within the boundaries of the forest there. I want to have a strong force in the centre of the map to push forward and to use that as a pivot for my armour, which I want to push up along the left hand flank and sweep round from there into the rear areas of the French. So that's my plan. We'll see whether or not it comes to fruition, and I'm going to stick a copy of the 12th SS Panzer battle group that I've used onto the very end of the video, so that it'll be there if you want to have a look at it. Give me any comments and feedback, any advice that you might have on it. I've tweaked it a wee bit since the last time. So with that being said, let's get into the battle. Okay, so to start the battle, I decide to send some recce and an infantry squad up the right to give me some vision along the road by the forest into the centre of the map. I think it will take some time for the French to push through the forest, so I'll send more infantry and support vehicles to the right flank later. To the left I've got a recce again along with a Pak 38, and I want to get that into position to deal with any scout vehicles or other light tanks the French might try to push forward while I'm waiting to bring up the armour. And in the centre I've got 3 Panzer Grenadier squads and a command squad with Firefly and a SPW 222, a mortar and an SD KFZ 250/9. So that's going to be the force that uses the anchor in the centre, and hopefully be able to push forward a bit into the French front line. You can see already that the French are advancing through the forest while they appear to be quite weak on the left, so I'm happy with how the battle has been shaped up from the get-go. My recce spots a couple of vehicles moving forward on the road to the right by the forest. There's a Greyhound scout car and a Stuart light tank. I've got my SPW 222 hidden behind the bocage, and hopefully I'll be in a position for flank or rear shots on the French vehicles when they pass. But there's another Stuart light tank appears, and another Greyhound, all moving up on that right flank there. So I decide that I need to reinforce the right earlier than I had anticipated, and I begin to move the 250/9 over towards the right. One of the Greyhounds keeps pushing up the road and is engaged by the SPW 222, but now that it's spotted, the other Greyhound and the Stuart begin to move in on my scout car. So my reinforcements are beginning to arrive on the right, but the SPW is forced to fall back under fire from the French vehicles, and the 250/9 tries to give it some covering fire, but can't stop it being destroyed, and the Stuart light tank then engages the half track. So the Greyhound and the Stuart push in towards the centre, and I have to use my mortar to try and get some suppression on them. The second Greyhound continues to push up the road, but these two vehicles engage my half track, force it to fall back, and then they turn their attention onto the infantry that I'm trying to push up through the centre. I think they're still quiet on the left, and I've not been able to call in any reinforcements on that flank, so I decide to push forward the recce to get an idea of what the French might have to oppose me. The Greyhound and the Stuart, that's the Greyhound on the right flank, moved up into range of my Panzer Grenadiers, and they're able to take it out. So I'm continuing to push forward the recce on the left hand flank, and also to move my anti-tank gun up into a better position to get a better view of the road. But the half track, it's actually engaged by an anti-tank gun and eventually the machine gun, and the anti-tank gun takes it out. So in the centre, the Stuart and the Greyhound continue to fire on my infantry that they've got pinned, and they're pretty impregnable there, that position. I don't have any anti-tank units to oppose them at all. I'm still trying to push my infantry forward through the centre, and I lay down some smoke, hoping to make the French commander think that I'm moving units up behind it, and it does seem to affect them. They do turn off and engage the infantry that I'm moving forward again. So they managed to keep one of the squads pinned down there. My 250/9 has recovered its morale, and it moves up to try and engage them again in the flank, but it can't really do any damage, and their combined fire force it to fall back again. I really struggled having no anti-tank capability at all in the centre there. But luckily the Greyhound pushed too close to the Panzer Grenadiers when it was following up on the half track, and it took a few shots, but they were eventually able to destroy the Greyhound. The Stuart's still there to return fire though, but I've finally been able to call in my first tank, a Bois de Firefly. And looking back, I should have brought it into the centre, but I brought it on the right because I thought it would be getting into the fight quicker and be able to threaten the flank of the French armour that had pushed into the centre and was causing me so much damage. But the French still had another Stuart by the road next to the forest, and it was engaged by the 259. In the centre, the Stuart was now pretty isolated, but it was still far enough away not to be in any danger. My 259 moved up again to try and engage it, but again without any success. But the Firefly did, when it got into position, manage to take out the Stuart with its first shot. On the left, my recce squad is now pushed up to the edge of the tree line without spotting anything, and the pack has moved into a better position to cover the road. But as the recce pushes out, it's engaged by French infantry in the trees. On the right hand side, I've now got a pretty strong force built up there, and I've got a Panzer II moving in to join up. Pretty weak in the centre, but I've managed to get the infantry forward, and I'm hopeful that the French might pull back on the right hand side, given the amount of forces that I'm building up there. I've got my Panzer Grenadiers moving up through the forest as a flank guard against ambushes, but as they move up, they're caught between fire from two French infantry squads, so they're caught in a crossfire there. And unfortunately, the French have also got a flamethrower unit in the vicinity, and the Panzer Grenadiers, who aren't toasted, will quite quickly surrender. So having a clear threat in my right flank, I halt the advance of the armour, and I push a half track over to try and protect the flank. And I've also got more Panzer Grenadiers moving up to reinforce. The French half track further up the road is destroyed by the Firefly, but I don't have line of sight on any significant units from where the tank is. So I push the Firefly and the Panzer II forward along the bank of the river, away from the road and away from the threat in the forest. And my Panzer Grenadiers move up and unload at the edge of the forest. As my tanks are moving up along through this field, the Panzer II is engaged by the Stuart in the centre and destroyed. The Firefly returns fire and the Stuart forces it to fall back, but its retreat route is back down towards the road and across the bridge, so it takes it right in front of the Firefly and it's destroyed. So now the way forward seems open, but before my Firefly can make any progress, it's engaged by an anti-tank gun that's been brought up. And it's quite quickly eliminated. So, having had quite a strong force on the right hand side a minute ago, I've now got hardly anything left, seriously depleted across the entire front in fact, and we're almost at phase B. and I still haven't managed to bring any reinforcements at all in on the left flank. I've brought all my reinforcements pretty much in on the right, apart from the one Panzer Grenadier squad that's now moving up in the centre. But on the right I'm moving up a SDKFZ 250/8 along with a Panzer Grenadier squad. And I'm going to try and bring in some more artillery to suppress the infantry in the forest. But just at this point another French light tank appears coming in towards the centre, and then I quickly discover it's actually two light tanks. And if MushyNed had any idea how few forces I had there, he could have pretty much won the battle at this point. Those two tanks could quite easily have pushed through the centre, knocked out a couple of half-tracks and given him control of about 80% of the map. But fortunately he must think that I've got more forces lying in wait for him, and he pulls his tanks back. On the right hand side I move the /8 up to engage the enemy infantry that I expect to be holding the front line, and I also send the Panzer Grenadier squad to the right to scout out whether I can maybe work my way around his flank in the forest. There's a move another half track up to the left of the river. It's quite quickly engaged by the infantry and the Stuart, and it's destroyed. In the centre, the remnants of the infantry that are pushed forward are now well behind the French lines, and they are due to surrender. I've got a few reinforcements trickling in now, a couple of recce squads moving up to the left, and a supply truck in the centre for the mortar. And on the right hand side I've decided to pull the half tracks back a bit and wait for support, and I'll continue to probe with the infantry and see if I can get any sort of joy in there. I know it's a risk with the flamethrower unit still being around, but I want to try and keep the French attention away from the centre and the left flank. I don't want them to try and push forward and find out how weak I am over there, so I'm trying to give them something to think about on the right hand side. The French bring in a P-38 to target my anti-tank gun. Pak-38 almost manages to destroy it, but not quite. And I push a SPW-222 from the left in towards the centre and move the infantry forward just to give some sort of presence in the centre of the map as well. On the right I've pulled the half-tracks back behind the forest, and I can see that the French now have something at the very edge of the forest on their extreme right flank, given the way the front line indicator is. So I begin to probe infantry back, but one of the squads walks right into the flamethrower unit. Again it surrenders. And back in the centre I've got a half-track and an SPW-231 scout car that I decide to move into a slightly more advanced position. But unfortunately there's an anti-tank gun as line of sight on that field, and it manages to take out the half-track. The 231 does manage to make it into the cover of the trees there, and it engages a French scout car in the distance. So they exchange fire for a while without really doing any damage to each other. On the left, my recce squad spots some French infantry, and then to the right the two Stuart light tanks reappear on the road. Fortunately they pull back again, I think because there's an engagement happens over on the right flank, so I don't know if that attracted them towards the firing over there. But whatever it was, I was quite happy they didn't push forward into the centre again. I pushed the infantry in the centre forward to a tree line where they should be able to keep an eye on that French infantry I spotted earlier, but when they engage it, it turns out that there are plenty of French squads, French units on their flank that are able to engage my infantry and pin it down. So I can now see that there's quite a strong French force holding that tree line that runs along the side of the river in the middle of the map. And I've managed to bring up a Panzer IV, but again I've brought it in on the right hand side. I did become a bit obsessed with having to shore up that flank, and it's clearly now affecting my decision making. I really needed the infantry and the artillery support, as I said earlier, to try and clear that forest. But bringing the Panzer IV, and now that it's there I'm reluctant to push it forward in case it gets ambushed. So I'll keep it sitting back there, trying to engage units at distance. So I decided to move the SPW-222 to the side of the tree line there to try and give some support to my infantry. But it turned out that the mortar had moved out of cover to be able to reach the targets. I had it shooting at in the right flank earlier, and it was engaged and forced to fall back. I've got more reinforcements moving in at this point. I think I'm bringing a second Panzer IV in the right and one over in the left. I should really have sent them both to the left, I think. And I also brought in a whirlwind that I was going to send in to cover the centre of the map. So I destroyed the infantry in the tree line. I pushed the SPW-222 further forward. At this point I'm just trying to scrape up some ownership or some territory. But the scout car spotted by an anti-tank gun over on the left. Fortunately the shot misses and it's able to get into the cover of the trees. And I've decided to bring the Panzer IV in from the right towards the centre, where I hope it will have more of an impact. But it's immediately spotted and engaged by an anti-tank gun and then hit by rockets from a P-38. It survives, but then another anti-tank round hits it and forces it to the retreat. And that anti-tank gun then turns its attention onto my 250/8 on the road and it takes it out. So I've lost an awful lot on the right. I'm not sure what I can do with the Panzer IV I brought in the right now, so it sits there without orders for a while. And the one I brought in on the left continues to move up towards the front line. I do eventually get the Panzer on the right forward, but on the left a French infantry squad engages my anti-tank gun and knocks it out eventually. My infantry in the centre still pinned down by fire from a scout car, I think. So I've got a tank isolated on the left flank, and I've got the light tanks in the centre there engaging my mortar. It keeps moving out of cover there, and I quickly lay down some smoke to try and screen the advance of the tanks on the right, but I've got to pull the mortar back into cover after just one round. For some reason it keeps moving out. I think, and the same with the whirlwind. I think with the mortar I kept giving it fire orders that were outside its range. So it popped backwards and forwards, out and in from the tree line there. To the left you can see that the French are beginning to probe the gap between my units in the centre and the Panzer IV on the left. They bring in a P-38 to make a rocket attack, which forces the Panzer to fall back. And as it does, it's engaged by an anti-tank gun. Misses with its first couple of shots, but the third shot, as you'll see, is successful. And this is something that happened a few times. Airplane attack, rockets followed up by anti-tank guns. For me, I'd been bringing up some Stern Pioneers on the left to support that Panzer before it was destroyed, and I'd called in a Focke-Wulf 190 to try and take out an anti-tank gun, but a mixture of anti-aircraft fire and a P-51 Mustang downed the plane. A couple of Stern Pioneers that I brought in the right discovered that there's an anti-tank gun now at the very edge of the forest there. And the Panzer IV that had been crossed the river on the right has now been engaged by a French anti-tank gun. And as it falls back, it's engaged by a second gun and then destroyed by the first one. So things are now getting pretty desperate for me. I'm moving my troops on each flank forward to try to engage the French and suss out what I'm facing. And at the same time I'm pulling my remaining Panzer IV back on the right to prevent me from losing it. On the left I'm moving one of the Stern Pioneers half-tracks forward under cover of a tree line, but it turns out there's an anti-tank gun in the centre that has line of sight on that field, and it takes out the half-track after a couple of shots. The infantry that I have in the forest on the right continues to advance, but one of the squads runs into the flamethrower with the normal results. And the flamethrower then moves up and catches a second squad, and it takes that out quickly too. So with that, I decide to give up in the forest and pull the last squad out to the edge by the road. In the centre, French infantry pushes through the trees and it takes out my SPW 222. So I'm now extremely thin in the centre again. And my latest reinforcements arrive on the right hand side, not on the left or the centre, back on the right. There's a 250/8 and a jagged panzer coming in. The French bring in a P-38 that targets the half-track and it pulls the old 1-2, a rocket attack, forces the half-track to fall back into the line of sight of an anti-tank gun, and there it goes. I had called in another Focke-Wulf 190, again trying to take out the anti-tank gun on the right flank, but this plane's also brought down by a combination of anti-aircraft fire, and I think there were 2 French planes coming in at this point. Yep. So the French seem to have pushed some unit forward between the centre and the left flanks, as I push my Stern Pioneers up on the left. And on the right I move the Panzer IV and the Jagged Panzer forward in another try to attack the French centre, and have another infantry squad moving up to support their advance, along with the one keeping flank guard in the forest. Over on the left hand side you can see the Stern Pioneers move up along the tree line, and then they're engaged by infantry waiting for them, and the anti-tank gun over in the flank drives off the half-track again. On the right hand side my reinforcements have started to arrive and discovered that there's now a French half-track supporting the anti-tank gun on the extreme right flank. So the infantry quickly get out of their truck and start moving them across the roads up in towards the forest to try and get them into some sort of cover. And I've got the other half-track there behind them, and I use that to provide some cover fire for them as they move across. The anti-tank gun tries to hit the half-track but misses, fortunately. And then the 2 half-tracks exchange fire. So my squad makes it into cover, but then it's the old 1-2 once again. The P-38 comes in, a rocket attack on the half-track forces it out into line of sight of the anti-tank gun. But this time, fortunately, the gunner's aim is off, and after 2 or 3 shots the half-track manages to evade, so it manages to survive. So the French are now beginning to push forward on the left flank, but my obsession with the right flank continues, and I bring in more infantry and a Tiger E there. And in the centre it's been quiet for too long, so I decide to push an SPW 231 forward just to give the French something to shoot at, and they've got plenty of units to do just that, including an anti-tank gun. So I've now managed to cobble together a force on the right that I hope to be able to push forward, but I've absolutely nothing left on the left, and the French are pushing well forward there. In the neutral mode you can see just how hopeless my situation is. I've got a single depleted squad facing the whole of the French army, and they've got a good strong defensive line with off-map artillery support as well. In the centre, my infantry squad's got no idea what they're facing, and they're pinned down as they try to move along the river, and they're basically stuck there. On the right hand side, a P-38 makes a rocket attack on the Tiger, but doesn't really do any damage, no real effect. And I'm trying to rush forward some reinforcements on the left. I've just got a Recce squad and an SDKFZ 250/9, And I'm also bringing in a flamethrower half-track on the right, hoping to try and give the French a taste of their own medicine. And the vehicles on the left encounter a French half-track and destroy it, but on the right hand side the off-map artillery barrage comes in. It doesn't look that impressive from here, but it does, as you can see, it forces the Jagdpanzer to retreat, and it also suppresses most of my infantry. And that pretty much brings an end to the battle. I've only got that force on the right hand side, I've got nothing in the centre and very little on the left. And the French are just able to push forward pretty much at will now. So that was it. Well played to MushyNed. I think you fought a good battle there. I think looking back, if I had stuck with the original plan, I think it might have worked, given how lightly held the left flank was. But once I started sending armour in on the right hand side, everything was lost. The French could easily hold the narrow choke point on the right between the forest and the river, just with a couple of anti-tank guns. And the destruction caused in the middle by the Greyhound and the Stuart early on left me without any forces to push forward at all. And then just by continuing to send my reinforcements into that meat grinder on the right, it just played right into the French commander's hands. And I couldn't get that notion out of my head of advancing on the right and trying to cut into the units in the centre. And I could never get back to my original plan. So if you've got any comments, any advice on how to properly play an armoured unit, please leave comments. I would love to learn how to get better at this. I think I'm getting there slowly, but I've clearly still got a long way to go. So I hope you've enjoyed this. Please do leave a comment and rate the video, and subscribe if you enjoy the series, and if you haven't already done so. And I hope to see you again next time. Cheers.